Hey guys, Crowbar Zero here, and today we're gonna go over silly broken game mechanic or game engine mechanics, because all of this really comes down to mechanics that are built into the game engine that dev really has no control over, unless he just completely rips everything apart, completely rewrites the game engine from like ground zero up, and does that rebuild, which would probably come with a lot of other issues, but and it really comes down to a lot of timing issues in general. And this isn't the only game that is prone to this problem. Um, if any of you guys enjoyed Factorio, there's a game that's similar to that, but different, called Satisfactory. And in that game, it also had timing issues that coincided with your frames per second. And so if you're running high-speed builds that would have a throughput of 780 items per minute, you might only get like maybe 770 items per minute, just because your frames per second is actually throttling how much it's able to not just render, but like kind of calculate how many items should be, when they're dumping into the belts and whatnot. So, moral of the story, this isn't the only game that has this issue, but we're going to get into a lot of the problems that we do currently see, and also probably talk about some things that are kind of like, they're still there, but there's a way to not have those problems. But yeah. Anyway, so the first one, which actually kind of goes with quite a few of those things, are teleporting fast enemies. So these are more prominent during tournaments. You have your frames per second on your device set to 60 frames per second. Um, it's more common during that time because of the lower frames per second that namely fast enemies, might be able to teleport a certain distance because your game is just not, you know, rendering things correctly and calculating. So it goes from like, I don't know, put my cursor over here, it'll be like, all right, I'm over here out of your range, and then I'm right next to your tower, and I'm gonna smack your tower. So this was a really, really big problem earlier on. We got the option to be able to get 120 frames per second. Um, and then we were also able to get light speed shot. And light speed shot's been also a big help for a lot of the issues with fast enemies, namely with the bounce mechanic, because it would bounce off one enemy and then it would be chasing the fast, and while the enemy would have died to that bounce shot, it gained this marked for death status effect, which would basically let him just charge right through your inner landmines, hit your tower, and do some nasty stuff. So both adding light speed shot and being able to increase the frames per second to 120 has been a huge help in able to rectify that situation. Now, obviously, your device at any particular time might not be running at that, perfect 60 frames per second or 120 frames per second. So this problems can be, still there, but again, it's more of that, just a little bit. Cooldown frame issues. So, I'm also playing this game at the same time. So cooldown frame issues. Trying to think of the best way to go into that, and I guess we'll bring up the case of Chrono Field. So really, to have 100%, like a true 100% uptime on Chrono Field, you don't want 60 seconds of duration and 60-second cooldown. What you're gonna actually need is 61 seconds of duration, which would be 1 minute and 1 second of duration, and with your 60-second cooldown. And the reason for that is there can be that frame per second gap in between basically Chrono Field coming off its cooldown and then starting up on the next round. So the 60 seconds, you can have some downtime in there, and especially with fast enemies, that can be extremely dangerous, especially if you're running a glass cannon build, which in the foreseeable future, everything kind of points to glass cannon being more of that in-game push that everyone's going to really want to go to, or at least convert their playstyle towards. Black hole of frames per second. So this really ties in more to farming, because there's been abilities in the past, there's abilities currently that are currently problematic. One of the older big ones that was a problem was Poison Swamp. The visuals were reworked on it, and personally I don't think it looks uglier, but it performs a lot better. So Poison Swamp, they did a good change there, as much as I hate the look. Personal opinion. But, it performs well. Like, you can have a bunch of Poison Swamps out, and it's not lagging the device like it used to. The other one that currently is a problem is if you're... Right now my range is extended out, but if your range is not extended out and it's really, really close, and you have a very large black hole, you can be sucking in a huge chunk of the enemies on the screen, and that could lag down your device. Now, when it's lagged down and you're getting like really low frames per second as a result of that, it's almost like you've got your game like semi on pause. So even though it might be saying, oh yeah, you're earning, let's say here, let's just click over here. Let's say it'd be like, oh yeah, you're earning 10 million. Well, maybe you're earning actually about 8 million a minute just because your game's lagging down so hard, but it's not calculating it. So that can be a big problem. Device. So depending on your device, you could have better or worse results in both farming versus tournament. So it's usually, a lot of people will say like, oh hey, this game works better as far as like farming on an emulator versus being on your phone, it works better for tournament. Now, everyone has a different experience. Some people it's the complete opposite. But it seems like there is a performance issue between devices, where you may have multiple devices that you're going back and forth between, and one will perform better than the other. All of the mechanics, I think, kind of, it's something with the device issue. I don't know exactly what it is. And I think it's still being researched, but just about most of the top players, I would say, have, they're switching between different devices. Me, I just kind of naturally do that because when I go out to work, I'll start up a run, and then in the afternoon I'll get back and, for lunch, I'll throw it on the emulator, and generally my coins are at a good point where, I'll be making a good chunk, and I can just kind of let it AFK in the afternoon. That's kind of how I play it out. If I leave it on too long on my phone, I start to get screen burn, a lot of those issues. So I just tend to float it between those two devices anyway, just naturally. But yeah. But like when I have to go into a tournament run, I'll usually just keep it on my phone, and it seems to perform better. I don't know why. And then if I'm doing just everything straight off the emulator, I would say maybe about a 20 to 30% increase in my coin farming, just because I've got it on the emulator, and it's a better device, I guess, for playing the game. The other problem is heat. So any of these problems on this list are going to be greatly exacerbated by by heat. So if you're in a warm environment, like you live in Vegas and it's in the middle of summer where you go outside and it feels like your skin's gonna melt off, chances are your device is gonna probably have some issues, or if it just has cooling problems in general. Um, and the game also isn't like super optimized to keep your phone cool, so there may be issues there as well. So and on top of that, if it gets too hot, you'll probably notice screen burn issues. Um, yeah, and all the problems on this list will just be much worse. So try to keep your phone nice and cool. Better coin game. So question mark there. so yeah, that's a weird one. It's been researched more recently, and I did a little play testing. This is fairly new, actually, where people have been testing different game speeds. Basically, different ones will allow you to have more enemies on the screen at any particular time, and it seems like the peak timing to have the most enemies on the screen is either at 2 times speed or at 5 times speed. And the really weird part is, if you're running, we'll say like with me, I've got standard perk bonus maxed out. I get the perk bonus to get extra speed. At the end of the day, I actually get more coin by lowering the game speed down to times 5 than I do at leaving it at 6.3, which seems absolutely ludicrous, but it seems like the peak enemies on the screen and spawns are going to be at times 2 or times 5. Now, if you're running in tournament and you want to kind of avoid this, it seems like a safe value is like 4.5 to decrease that. But, also if you're running at lower speeds, such as like all the way down at 1 times, if I didn't mention it earlier, having it down at like 1 time speed is going to lengthen out the time of a wave as well, just oh so slightly because of all the frames per second. So you might be able to recharge your energy shield like say like 0.5% improvement versus not running it at 1 time speed. But if you are running matches at 1 time speed, it is pretty soul draining. It might not really have a huge effect on your actual progress because of a lot of other factors, but something to just keep in mind. Yeah. So yeah, better coin gains you're gonna get at 5 times speed versus the 6 point whatever speeds. And then tournament, try to run that, especially when things start to get into like the, maybe you're starting to take some noticeable damage, maybe down to like 4.5. Boss multi-hits your tower. So this one is especially infuriating once you're going full glass cannon, because basically, you're trying to not get hit, and each hit takes off one of your energy shield bars. And it was actually earlier this week that I had a run, and it was going to be the last run that I was going to run with Thorbs trying to get the T12 relic. Everything was going super smooth, and then not only did I get multi-hit, it wasn't like it's 2 hits, which is the most common. It wasn't 3 hits, it was 4 hits. I went from full energy shield to losing my second wind. Just boom, 1 boss, all of it gone. 1 tap and it's just like boom, all of it gone. It was so infuriating because I'm in, what was it? I think I was actually running it at like the 4 times speed, 4.5, and I wasn't running with wave skip, wave acceleration, anything. So this was like a really long, soul draining run, several hours, and like everything was finally perfectly like lining up, and then that happened. And it was the last run that I could do before I actually had the update and whatnot. And yeah, it was. Let's just say I was raging pretty hard because of that bug. And actually, right now, you probably noticed that I'm just running on tier 1, and I'm just running on tier 1 just so I can collect gems when they pop up. I'm just running it on the lowest possible difficulty. I'm not worrying about perks or any of these things, lining them up perfectly. No, I'm not thinking about any of this. Not that any of those choices actually matter at all. I'm just letting it run just so that I can get the gems, just so I'm not losing progress. But yeah, it was super infuriating. So yeah, by the time you get to Glass Cannon, you may hit that boss multi-hits your tower. When it does, it doesn't happen very often, especially if your device is on the overheating side. You're definitely at higher risk. Hopefully, you don't get quad hit. But when it does happen, it's pretty frustrating. But yeah, that's my list of silly broken game engine mechanics, or in the case of that last one, absolutely infuriating game mechanic problems. Hopefully, at some point, some of these get fixed. I could see if something along the lines of like energy shield getting maybe like a small window of invulnerability would really help this problem. Something like 0.1 second of invulnerability would just actually no, it'd probably have to be 1 point or no 0.126 seconds. Or probably just round it up to like 0.3 second of invul, and that would probably fix that multi-hit. But other than that, without those little changes here and there, probably most of these issues are going to stick around for a fairly long time. Like tipping my hat to FUDs for at least for the teleporting enemy issue. Um, light speed shot and allowing players to click the 120 frames per second boss was like a huge step in the right direction. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will catch you later.